Welcome to Gallant Conversations. Gallant is a business-to-business consultancy specializing in industrial innovation.
We drive growth for our clients through strategies and insights in brand management and strategic communications.
If you're in an industry focused on progress at the macro level, we're here to facilitate a conversation, starting now. So I am here today with my dear friend Ingvild Karstens, who is the publisher of GeoExpro magazine. It is one of the most unusual and fascinating magazines I have ever had the joy and privilege of reading. And I am going to let her tell you a little bit more about it.
All right. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. I'm, as you said, I'm Ingvild, and I am now the publisher of GeoExpro magazine, which was originally founded over 20 years ago, or actually 20 years ago this year. We just had our anniversary back in June. And it was originally founded by my father, Halvdan Karstens. He is a geologist by training. And he ventured into journalism and founded his first magazine in Norway about 25 years ago. But he always had this little dream of producing an international geoscience magazine. And 21 years ago, he ran into his old colleague from the legendary Saga Petroleum at the EAGE in Stavanger back in 2003. And he pitched the idea to him to start an international geoscience magazine. And he said he didn't have time, but he offered up his wife, Kirsty Carlson, as a potential partner for the magazine. And they decided to go for it. And 21 years later, we're here. And we've now been publishing the magazine for 20 years. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, I got familiar with the magazine, I believe it was 2007, also at the EAGE. I had an opportunity to meet Halvdan. It was in Vienna that year.
2005.
Was it 2005?
It was in 2005, yeah.
Oh, wow. And so Ingvild and I met because her father and I talked about some publications, and he was kind enough to publish a couple of articles for my employer at the time, which was CGG Veritas. It was Veritas at the time. He said, my daughter's moving to Houston. And so that was kind of the beginning of us getting to know each other. And then I always look forward to this publication because I feel like you all have hit the most unusual sweet spot, which is anyone that is interested in subsurface is going to find something fascinating in the magazine. You can just be curious about it, or you can be just a deep geophysicist or something of that nature, and you are going to be able to enjoy this publication from cover to cover. And then to see you all evolve into kind of your digital platforms and all of that has been fascinating. But talk to me a little bit more about the evolution of the industry and how you all have really framed that up, because that is something else.
All right. Well, to your point about like what the how we publish the magazine, or how we structure the magazine, and how we try to draw the interest of everyone that is working within geoscience, or if you are on the outside but interested in geoscience. That has always been the goal of the magazine, to make it accessible to everyone and to make the content understandable to everyone that is has an interest in the geosciences in general. And the way that we have always built the magazine has been with that foundation in mind, which has always made us able to stay in close touch with the industry, and having developed like close and deep relationships within the industry just allows us to tap into it or tell the industry stories in a different way than I think a lot of other magazines do.
Absolutely.
And I think that has been the key to why we still, or when we go to conferences, which is one of our main distribution platforms, like we run into people from all walks of life, basically, that's been in the industry for 50 years or just 5 years, and they love the magazine. And just having those interactions and realizing that you are giving them something that they appreciate has been of enormous joy for all of us that have been involved with this magazine in the 21 years since we initially started. Yeah.
And so it started as an oil and gas, but now y'all are so much more because the industry's so much more.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that a little bit.
That is one of the most fun things, I think, in the last few years has been being a part of that evolution. Like, we've been a traditional oil and gas exploration magazine, and that has been the main focus of everything that we have done. But now, with the changes that we're all encountering in all the walks of lives that we're in, like, at home and at work, and, every country is involved in this effort. We need to change how we look at or how we source our energy, both because it makes sense environmentally, but also economically. It makes sense to branch out and not just rely on oil and gas anymore. And the subsurface will and plays an important role in that. And geoscience understanding is of incredible importance to the transition that we're finding ourselves to be in the middle of. So obviously, we had to adapt. And that means that we are now covering geothermal energy, we're covering offshore wind, and we're covering deep sea minerals. Of course, also carbon capture and storage and new gas like helium and hydrogen. And all these sources of energy and resources that we find in the subsurface are going to be of vital importance for us to manage this change. And our readers, the geoscientists that extract and find these resources and develop technologies to develop these resources, are our readers. And so it was a natural step for us to, of course, include these new energy ventures, of course, as well. And it's a privilege to be a part of that journey and to be able to write about the technology and the advancements and the companies that are coming up and being on the forefront in these industries. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting, Ingvild, you've got this really unique perspective of the global industry, and you're telling this story from a beautiful spot in rural Norway. Talk to me a little bit about Norway and just your love of nature and kind of that landscape and how it was nurtured in you and kind of what that juxtaposition looks like.
Well, as a daughter of a geoscientist, I was privileged to be a part of the industry from a very early age, and through
like how early? Like, when was the first time you remember like going and looking at rocks outcroppings or something
and
of that nature?
And oh my gosh, the first trip that I realized that we were, traveling as a part of or to look at geology is probably when I was about 12 years old, and we traveled to Australia.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Just growing up in the industry and having access to that has been an important part of my upbringing, but it fostered in me the interest in the geosciences, of course. And we didn't talk about this, but I'm not a geoscientist by training myself, but I've been surrounded by geoscientists my whole life. And also, growing up in rural Norway, I grew up in the third largest city in Norway, but it's tiny if you compare it to other cities around the world. So I guess rural is accurate in that regard. But Norway has been also has been in a unique position in the oil and gas industry to develop technology, and that is is a result of course, Norway being lucky enough to possess oil and gas resources, but also from a policy and governmental perspective, having had a very strict regulatory framework around it that has pushed technology development and pushed the industry forward.
Absolutely.
And therefore, considering our size, we've been important in the industry, or proportionally more important to the industry than our size would generally, say, because of that, because of the regulatory framework that has been so strict in Norway in terms of environmental impacts and safety and all these things, it's put us at the forefront, and that has given us access, and also myself access to the global subsurface community, because we've been able to travel and we've been able to participate in the industry around the world.
I think that's interesting. I don't think people necessarily, especially stateside, realize that, the shifts that we've seen in my lifetime in terms of environmental regulations, in terms of, managing safety, all of that. Go think in Norwegian, because I assure you that a lot of that transfer of knowledge and transfer of technology that we see in the Gulf of Mexico, that we see in even the shale revolution, all of that, I would say, tell me if I'm wrong, but it went from Norway to the North Sea, then to the Gulf of Mexico, and then the rest of the world.
I think in a lot of instances it has gone that way, but that, of course, is not exclusively,
right.
A Norwegian effort. But we definitely...
You definitely set a stage and taught people that it can be done, and it should be done.
It should be done.
Yes.
And it's absolutely possible, and it makes economic sense, and it makes sense for the population of the countries where oil and gas is a part of, because it allows for the prosperity of the industry to actually impact the people in the countries where we operate. And those are things that I think that we have been ahead of the curve on, and that I hope that other countries around the world are copying and following down that road.
And taking that blueprint, how do you see that kind of shaping some of these more nascent industries like subsea, or is it subsea mining or deep sea mining?
Deep sea minerals,
okay,
deep sea mining, yes.
And of course geothermal, my favorite. Talk to me a little bit about that.
I think that with the environmental pressures that we see that is coming from around the world, there are definitely very good things coming out of that is pressuring the industry in general to become better. I think that countries like Norway have shown that it is possible already, and that is helping and in policy formation in countries around the world now, when we are actually developing these new industries. I think both stateside, but also in other European countries, in Asian countries, and in Africa, South America, we're seeing that governments are becoming bolder in pushing tough requirements on these industries to ensure that we are as environmentally friendly, as environmentally benign, and also ensuring that it gives economic prosperity to the countries that they're operating in, or that we're operating in, with these new industries. It's become a lot more nascent for these countries to reap all these benefits from these technologies, whereas I think traditionally in oil and gas, if we go 10, 15, 50 years back in time, it's been much more we're in it for ourselves and we're reaping all the benefits for ourselves, or the industry has. And that has been a negative. It's been a net negative for the industry. But I think that we're starting to see those changes happen, especially with these new industries coming in, like geothermal and offshore wind, deep sea minerals.
What do you think is the most important thing that you are going to be looking at in the next 20 years when it comes to
when it comes to our publication or the subsurface,
well, I mean, you just have such an unusual view into the future by looking at the past. Sorry.
Well, I think all these new industries are going to play a vital role in the energy transition. We're going to have to take advantage of the best of what they all can offer us, because energy security into the future is extremely important, and taking advantage of all the knowledge that we have developed within within subsurface from oil and gas, and taking that into these other industries and developing these new industries in the best possible way is going to be extremely important. But yeah, what is the most exciting part of it, or what is going to be the most transformative?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but I think geothermal has an incredible potential in that regard, because it can be deployed in so many areas around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be deployed, or it can be developed on a large scale, connecting into the grid in general in areas that need a lot of electricity. But you can also do it on a very, very local level, mm-hmm. on a house by house level. So that means that you can bring energy sufficiency to communities, or rural, very rural communities, but also to cities. When it comes to technology development and purely from a scientific point of view, I think deep sea mining is extremely interesting and exciting, and not discounting the controversies mm-hmm. around it, but I think that the potential in technology development and just from a technology and science perspective, I think that is extremely interesting.
If you had the opportunity to go down there, would you do it?
Yeah. Absolutely.
You would take it. You would do any adventure.
Not sure if I would go to space, but I would go down there.
Those teeth, though. Mm-hmm. On those animals. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But there, and that is the controversy of it, right. The biology and the impact down there, and the lack of knowledge that we are perceived to have on that subject. But I think that from what I see that the industry is doing is that they're taking this very seriously. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they're getting enough credit for that. And that is hard, because that is, the industry in general, when it comes to the geosciences, that is oil and gas and deep sea minerals and geothermal and everything, we're under extreme scrutiny mm-hmm. from the general public.
And no celebration. That's the thing. It's tough.
Yeah, it's very tough. But I think that all the scientists that are working on this problem are taking this extremely seriously. There is nobody that I have encountered that are not thinking about this and not wanting to do this in a safe and considerate way. Mm-hmm. And that is something that is under-communicated. It's also something that is extremely hard to communicate. But I think that if we do start to mine minerals from the seabed, mm-hmm. I'm quite certain that it will be as safe as it can possibly be. It will be as a benign industry, or benign impact industry as we will see anywhere, because the concerns about it are so vast, mm-hmm. And the level of seriousness that this is taken with from the scientists that we work with is very, very high. So I have confidence that we're going to be able to do this.
And you all have a kind of a unique responsibility too. I feel like
Absolutely.
You all have always taken the mantle and said, we're going to be a very straightforward, a very direct, a very unbiased source for the industry.
Yeah.
It's truly remarkable. So thank you so much for sharing more about GeoExpro. If folks want to find you, where can they look? And tell me what they can access.
Well, you can access the whole archive of 20 years of articles basically online on geoexpro.com. If you want to read more about what we do, I suggest following us on LinkedIn. I think our handle is GeoExpro. You can subscribe on geoexpro.com/subscribe.
And then if you want to support the important work that GeoExpro is doing, you can certainly sponsor the magazine. You have
sponsor the magazine,
ad products, and
yes,
custom
of course,
programs and things of that nature, and your events. Yeah, so the whole 9 yards. So, and then if people want to find you on LinkedIn, how would they find you?
Just search for geoexpro.com.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect.
Or if you want to find me, my name is Ingvild Karstens, and I'm happy to connect.
All right, great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining this conversation with Gallant.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode and gained meaningful insight.
If you find this entertaining or helpful, subscribe and leave us a review.
And don't forget to share this conversation with your network.
For more resources and to stay updated with Gallant Insights and our amazing client portfolio companies, visit gallantculture.com.
Join us next time as we continue to explore perspectives within the industrial innovation space propelling us forward.
Until then, we ask you to stay thoughtful and curious.